So picture this. You're sitting out on a porch right here in Atchison, Kansas, just tuning into the little station on Commercial Street.
Yeah, getting comfortable.
Right. The evening air is, just starting to cool down. The crickets are waking up. And I lean over to you and tell you that a crime has just been committed.
And your mind probably immediately goes to the physical stuff, right?
Exactly. You think of a broken window or a safe hanging open or, I don't know, a chalk outline on the floor.
The tangible violation. I mean, the legal system has a very neat categorized box for that kind of thing. We actually rely on the broken glass in a weird way.
Wait, rely on it? How so?
Well, because seeing a physical boundary shattered is strangely comforting. You know exactly what needs to be fixed. You just board up the window.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But the mystery we are broadcasting about tonight on Chesterton Radio has absolutely zero broken glass.
None at all.
Right. The chalk outline is completely invitable. Tonight's deep dive is into random weirdness, specifically a tall girl and the keeper mystery.
Such a brilliant story.
It really is. And since you've likely already read the story, if you're tuning in, we're going to go ahead and skip the basic plot summary. We want to really unpack the deeper magic here.
The mission for today really is to figure out why this mystery works so beautifully and, what it reveals about human perception.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the crime scene here isn't a locked room. It's a girl's daily routine.
Right. It's her ordinary life.
Someone breaks into her life, steals absolutely nothing, but leaves a trail of evidence proving they know exactly how the gears in her head turn.
Which is terrifying.
It is. To me, that is 100 times more terrifying than a stolen television.
Because it attacks the infrastructure of your identity. I mean, if someone takes your TV, you're angry, sure. But if someone secretly rearranges your books to reflect, like a psychological profile they've built of you.
Oh, geez. That would freak me out.
Right. You are unmoored. It leaves you questioning not just the security of your house, but the autonomy of your own mind.
Yes, exactly.
We're talking about an author taking the mundane realities of life, the little coincidences, the offhand comments, the roles we just sort of find ourselves playing and putting them under a magnifying glass.
To ask if any of it is actually random at all. Or if maybe we're all just navigating narratives that were written by other people entirely without our permission.
That's the core thesis right there. And to really grasp how this psychological trespassing works, we have to look at the ground where it happens, the setting.
Oh, Benedictine College.
Yes. The setting of the story isn't just a painted backdrop. Benedictine operates like a sentient machine. The text gives us this brilliant distinction right away. It says a small college like this doesn't introduce people.
It files them.
Yes, it files them.
The mechanics of that filing system are laid out so perfectly during move-in day. It's an industrialized sorting process masked as Midwestern hospitality.
Oh, completely. You have the clipboard girls scanning the freshmen, instantly calculating their matching T-shirt potential.
Right. And the RAs sizing people up to predict who is going to burn popcorn in the microwave at 2 in the morning.
It's a rapid-fire triage of human personality. And I remember reading that and thinking about Tall Girl, our protagonist, arriving with this very private, fragile hope.
She wants to enter college sideways, right? Unannounced.
Exactly. She wants to exist purely on her own terms, visible only by degrees, as she chooses to reveal herself.
Which is a feeling I think almost everyone can relate to. When you start a new chapter in life, you want a blank slate.
But that blank slate survives for exactly 12 minutes. 12 minutes before someone leans into her room, looks at her, and says, "Wait, are you the keeper's sister?"
Boom. The file folder snaps shut. The label is applied.
Yep. So what is the engine behind that? Why is there this immediate aggressive urge to categorize people?
Well, if I look at modern technology, it feels exactly like a social media algorithm.
How so?
It's like the college has aggressively served her the identity it thinks will get the most engagement. The algorithm decided she is the keeper's sister. And every person she meets from that moment on is just another push notification reinforcing that brand.
I like that. The algorithm analogy works on a surface level, but I think it actually misses the underlying motive of a small, tight-knit institution.
Really? Why?
Because an algorithm is cold math maximizing attention. But the sorting at Benedictine is driven by something much deeper. It's cognitive exhaustion and, strangely enough, affection.
Affection.
Yeah. As Cassie and Rick points out later in the story, small communities abhor wasted narrative. They like to save time.
Walk me through that. How does putting someone in a box save time?
Well, a completely new person is an unknown variable, right? They require an enormous amount of energy to process. You have to figure out their sense of humor, their moral boundaries, their history.
Sure, that takes months.
Yeah.
Sometimes years.
Exactly. But if you can look at a freshman and immediately drop them into an existing cognitive slot like, you're the sequel to the older sibling, you bypass all that work.
Oh, wow. You don't actually have to meet them.
Right. You just review the existing file on the older sibling and project it onto the younger one.
Man, that is so true. It's like going home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You know, you haven't lived in your hometown for 10 years. You have a completely different career, a totally different worldview.
But the second you sit down at the table,
The second you sit down, your family immediately casts you as the quiet one or the troublemaker. The folder already exists, so they just dust it off.
and the most suffocating part of that dynamic, which the story captures so perfectly, is that it's usually done with kindness. The text says, rudeness could be opposed. Affection had to be carried.
Oh, that line is heavy. Affection had to be carried.
If someone at Thanksgiving insults you, you can argue. But if your aunt treats you like a helpless teenager because she genuinely loves the memory of you as a helpless teenager...
Correcting her feels like an act of aggression.
Exactly. You have to carry her affection, even if it's literally crushing your actual identity.
But, you know, the text also says that Benedictine's chief academic discipline is arrangement, that it has a genius for intersections disguised as accidents.
Yes.
That implies there's something more than just lazy cognitive sorting happening. It's not just a family trying to save time at Thanksgiving.
No, it elevates the algorithm to the level of theology. The narrator mentions that the campus is 40% saints and 60% idiots, where wrong turns often develop a moral dimension.
Right.
When people put tall girl in her sister's shadow, they don't think they're stereotyping her. They believe Providence is taking up student life as a hobby.
Oh, so they think they're participating in a meaningful, continuous story of legacy.
Exactly. Which means rejecting the label isn't just correcting a mistake. If tall girl says, I'm not my sister, she isn't just breaking a social convention.
She's ruining their beautiful providential narrative.
She's committing a kind of social heresy.
Wow. That is the exact invisible pressure cooker she is living in. And to understand why that pressure is so immense, we have to look at the specific file she's being crammed into. The anatomy of the legend itself. The keeper.
The symbolism here is staggering. Tall girl is a dancer. The keeper, her older sister, was a goalkeeper. Let's start with the goalkeeper, because the way the text describes this vocation is just mesmerizing.
It says she's someone who turns danger into geometry. She understands panic as a weather condition.
It's brilliant literary framing. Think about what a goalkeeper actually does on the pitch. They're the only player on the field using different rules, wearing a different uniform, standing in a confined space.
Yeah, they use their hands when no one else can.
Right. When chaos is hurtling toward them, when the defense breaks down and panic ensues, they don't panic. They calculate. They look at the ball, the posts, and their own body, and they impose mathematical order on the chaos.
They make the angles honest. But wait, isn't a goalkeeper fundamentally reactive? I mean, they don't initiate the play. They only exist to negate what someone else is doing. Their entire worth is measured by what they stop.
That is the tragedy of the position, and it's exactly why goalkeepers make such compelling figures. A striker is defined by creation scoring a goal. A goalkeeper is defined by preservation.
And when you contrast that with Tall Girl's world in the dance studio, the dichotomy of the sisters becomes really clear.
Right. The dance studio is described as a kingdom with entirely different physics. It is honest by attrition.
Because a body in a dance studio cannot lie.
You can fake grace for a few counts, maybe, but the mirror, the sheer cruelty of repetition, the physical reality of muscle fatigue, it all eventually exposes the truth.
So in the studio, Tall Girl is generating a story from within. Her height isn't a tool used to block a net. It's about the line, the extension, claiming her own space.
Beautifully put. You have one sister whose life is about extending into space to create beauty, and another sister whose life is about guarding a defined space to prevent disaster.
Which makes the end of the keeper's career so devastating. She gets a severe concussion. The ultimate stopper is suddenly violently stopped.
And here we hit the fracture point between reality and narrative. The story details the profound difference between how a family remembers a trauma and how a campus remembers it.
Oh, this part is so real. The family remembers the hospital lights, the athletic trainer's voice, the quiet, terrifying realization that her brain is injured.
It's an ugly, messy interruption.
But the campus buffs out all the ugly parts and turns it into a shining, polished monument of unfinished courage.
Because unfinished stories terrify the human psyche. If a gifted athlete's career just evaporates because of a random collision, a bad angle, a slip on the wet grass, it implies that the universe is chaotic
And indifferent.
and fundamentally unsafe. We cannot tolerate that kind of nihilism in our daily lives.
But hold on, let me ask you this. Do we really hate unfinished stories? Because if you look at the cultural obsession with true crime or unsolved mysteries, people devour unresolved narratives.
That's true, they do.
Right. We have entire online communities dedicated to picking apart cold cases. So why do we love those unfinished stories? But the campus absolutely cannot stomach the keeper's unfinished story.
That's a crucial distinction, actually. We love an unsolved mystery because it's a puzzle waiting for our intellect. We believe there is an answer, a hidden key.
And if we're just smart enough, we can find it and restore order.
Exactly, it empowers us. But a career-ending concussion isn't a puzzle to be solved. There's no hidden culprit. It's just a tragedy to be endured. There's no intellectual payoff, only the grim reality of human fragility.
I see. So because there's no puzzle to solve, the campus has to invent a moral lesson to make the chaos bearable.
Precisely. They become amateur theologians. They start using words like brave, inspiring, and heartbreaking to dress up the void.
They say things like, everything happens for a reason.
Right. They take this girl's real physical pain and they turn it into a symbol that makes them feel profound.
You know, I actually have a personal anecdote about exactly this. A few years ago, a close friend of mine went through a brutal medical crisis. It was ugly, it was painful, and she was just miserable.
I'm so sorry.
Thanks. But the thing I noticed was that everyone around her kept telling her how brave she was and how she was such an inspiration to all of us. And I realized, with a lot of guilt, honestly, that calling her brave was secretly a defense mechanism for us.
How do you mean?
Well, if we put her on a pedestal as a hero, we didn't have to sit in the mud with her. We didn't have to acknowledge how deeply unfair and meaningless her suffering actually was. By calling her an inspiration, we were using her trauma to make ourselves feel better about the universe.
Wow. That is exactly the dynamic at play at Benedictine. When you label someone an inspiration in that context, you are unintentionally stripping them of their messy humanity and replacing it with utility.
You're turning a person into a parable.
Yes, and the keeper actually articulates this later in the story. She says, I think people liked me more when I became an unfinished story, because unfinished stories make good symbols. People can carry them around and feel serious.
People can carry them around and feel serious. Geez, it's such a dark form of consumption.
It really is.
And that heavy, symbolic, eager-to-be-moved environment is the exact fuel that Cassian Rook uses to power his trap. Which brings us to the actual crime.
The random weirdness.
Right. And again, this completely defies modern true crime tropes. Nobody's poisoned, no money is embezzled. It starts with a pair of pale pink dance shoes.
Tall girls' shoes go missing from the studio.
And where do they turn up? Sitting on a bench outside the soccer offices. But they aren't just dumped there.
No, the ribbons are folded in exactly the way Tall Girl folds them.
It's so creepy. It's a deliberate misplacement. He is physically moving artifacts from her private world into the geographic territory of her sister's legend.
And then there's the cast list. Her dance piece is supposed to be called Crossing Water. Someone sneaks up to the bulletin board and changes the title to Keeper of the Threshold.
Notice the linguistic manipulation there. Marrying the vocabulary of dance crossing, threshold, with the literal title of her sister's mythos, the Keeper.
It's incredibly calculated.
But the absolute peak of this psychological warfare is the note. Tall Girl reaches into the front pocket of her dance bag, a pocket she knows for a fact was empty, and finds a folded piece of paper.
What does it say?
It reads, "You only count when you're frightened. The rest of the time you trust the music."
It is a devastatingly intimate observation.
It is, because it's entirely true. She literally counts steps under her breath when she's anxious to ground herself. It's her private, internal coping mechanism.
So the note doesn't say, like, I'm watching you sleep with one eye open.
No, it essentially says, I have disassembled the machinery of your mind. I understand exactly how your gears turn, and I am putting them back together in a different order.
Which maps perfectly onto the tradition of classic radio mysteries and Chestertonian literature. Think of Father Brown or Agatha Christie's Miss Marple.
Yeah, how does this compare to those?
Well, in modern thrillers, the crime is usually an extreme act of physical violence. A serial killer, a cartel, The stakes are biological survival. But in the classic tradition, the most heinous crime is a violation of the social order or human nature.
It's a spiritual crime.
Exactly. I mean, you used the burglar analogy earlier, but let me refine it based on what we're seeing with Cassian Rook. It's like a burglar breaks into your house, but he doesn't take your TV or your jewelry. Instead, he alphabetizes your bookshelves based on your specific reading habits.
Oh, that's weird.
He moves your favorite coffee mug to the exact spot on the table where you sit every morning. He leaves proof that he has studied your life.
Let me push back on that analogy slightly. The burglar who alphabetizes your books is showing you that he knows you. But Cassian Rook is doing something way more insidious.
What's he doing?
He isn't just showing Tall Girl that he knows her habits. He is actively translating her into someone else's grammar. A better analogy would be a burglar who breaks into your house, takes all your furniture, and replaces it with exact replicas of your older sister's furniture.
Oh, arranged in the way you would arrange it.
Yes. He's forcing you to live in a hybrid reality where your distinct self is entirely subsumed by someone else's legacy.
That is so much worse. It's the ultimate gaslighting. It's not just, I know who you are. It's, I'm going to dictate who you are using the tools of your own personality.
Cassian actually gives away his entire philosophy in one line. He says, most people don't know what they want to be. They know what they don't want to feel.
He's the philosophy snake.
He really is. He doesn't believe people have fixed, sacred identities. He believes human beings are just a collection of aversions. We're rats in a maze trying to avoid electric shocks.
So if he can map out what Tall Girl doesn't want to feel, she doesn't want to feel awkward. She doesn't want to cause a public scene. She desperately doesn't want to insult her injured sister. He can herd her into any position he wants.
Simply by making every other option emotionally painful. He weaponizes her empathy against her.
Yes. He doesn't need a gun or a locked room. He just uses the crowd's affection as the walls of his trap.
And the climax of that trap happens at family weekend, which, if you've ever been to a small college, is the Super Bowl of performative wholesomeness.
Oh, absolutely. The alumni are there. The parents are wearing matching sweatshirts. Everyone is pretending they have their lives entirely figured out.
And athletics puts together an anniversary video to play before the big soccer game. And Cassian happens to be on the student committee that gathers continuity pieces for this video.
He's the one feeding the machine.
What he feeds it is pure poison dressed up as sentimentality. Picture the scene. Tall Girl is sitting in the stadium stands with her parents and the keeper. The video plays on the big screen. It highlights the keeper's amazing career.
The diving saves, the heartbreak on the sidelines after the concussion.
Right, and the crowd is getting teary-eyed. And then the video splices in footage of Tall Girl dancing in the studio, completely unrelated to soccer.
Splicing her separate private life directly into the public legend.
And the caption on the screen reads, "Freshman dancer, younger sister carrying the legacy forward." And the crowd does what crowds do. They make that soft, collective awe sound.
Because they're so moved by this beautiful narrative of continuity.
Exactly. And Tall Girl suddenly realizes she is publicly, completely trapped.
This is the execution of what we might call the wrong question. It is the absolute emotional core of the story. Cassian has engineered a public scenario where every conceivable reaction from Tall Girl is a wrong answer.
Let's walk through her options in that stadium. If she stands up and yells, "Take that down, I am not my sister's sequel," what happens? She looks unhinged.
She looks petty and dramatic. The crowd thinks, oh, the poor fragile younger sister is cracking under the pressure of the legacy.
Right. And if she smiles and waves to the crowd, accepting the applause,
she is annexed. She formally accepts the role of continuation. Her independent identity is erased with her own consent.
And if she breaks down and starts crying out of frustration and panic,
the crowd assumes she is overcome with beautiful, poignant emotion, and it just becomes a touching moment for the alumni magazine.
Man, every single reaction she can possibly have answers the underlying question. Are you the keeper's legacy?
That is the definition of a false binary. Cassian forces her to respond to a premise she never agreed to. If society asks you a loaded question, whichever side you choose, you validate the premise.
This happens in real life all the time, completely divorced from creepy campus mysteries.
Oh, sure.
Think about workplace dynamics. Let's say you have a boss who is an absolute micromanager, just ruining your workflow.
Yeah.
In a team meeting, the boss asks you, are you struggling to keep up with this project, or do you just not care about the deadline?
A classic managerial trap.
Exactly. If you say, I'm struggling, you admit incompetence on public record. If you say, I care about the deadline, you put yourself on the defensive and legitimize their aggressive questioning.
Right. You validate their right to interrogate you.
The actual truth is, neither your micromanagement is the bottleneck here, but social convention and office hierarchy make it almost impossible to reject the premise in real time. You end up answering the wrong question just to alleviate the immediate pressure in the room.
Or look at the political landscape. How often are voters presented with a cultural or economic question framed so narrowly that choosing either side forces them to endorse an underlying assumption they fundamentally reject?
All the time.
The genius of Cassian's maneuver at Family Weekend is that he doesn't use aggression to trap her. He uses the crowd's warmth. He traps her in a cage made entirely of other people's good intentions.
But this is where the keeper proves why she is a legend. And it has nothing to do with her reflexes or her ability to stop a soccer ball.
What does she do?
When Tall Girl is having a quiet breakdown outside the athletic building after the video, Cassian actually strolls up to gloat. He is so arrogant. He looks at her and asks, "Do you know the difference between resemblance and duty?"
He's probing for data. He wants to know which of his wrong answers she has selected in her internal monologue. He's testing the structural integrity of his experiment.
And the keeper swoops in, steps between them, and basically tells Cassian to back off. But the real magic is the advice the keeper gives her little sister right after. She says, "If something happens, ask whether it requires an immediate answer."
That is a profound psychological intervention.
It is revolutionary. The idea that you can simply refuse to answer a loaded question in real time. You do not owe the room a resolution to the tension they just created.
Cassian's entire philosophy relies on the human instinct to fix a narrative before it hardens. He knows that discomfort drives people to quick, poorly calculated actions. By telling Tall Girl to simply wait, to sit in the unresolved tension, the keeper deprives Cassian of his data.
She stops the play from developing. But the tension is still there. Waiting doesn't dismantle the bomb, it just delays the detonation. The trap is fully set, and the final act is the dance showcase happening that very night.
So the central question becomes, how does our protagonist escape a trap where every move is monitored, pre-interpreted, and heavy with manufactured meaning?
You have to reject the premise entirely, but doing that is incredibly difficult. Let's look at the setup for the climax. Tall Girl is backstage, she's stretching, getting ready to dance crossing water.
Okay.
Her friend Liv runs up to her with a program insert that is currently being handed to every single person in the auditorium.
Ah, Cassian's final, inescapable move.
Yes, he hasn't just changed a bulletin board this time. He has literally printed thousands of glossy inserts. The piece is no longer listed as crossing water. It is listed as threshold.
And there's a dedication, right?
Yes, printed right beneath it. Dedicated to the athletes whose unfinished courage becomes the task of those who follow.
It is breathtakingly arrogant. He is dictating the emotional weather of the entire room.
He really is. He's telling 400 people exactly what to feel when they look at Tall Girl's body moving on stage, providing them with the lens through which every leap and turn must be viewed.
And Miss Caro, the dance instructor, who is a fantastic character, by the way, she sees right through the noise. She takes one look at this insert and realizes the magnitude of the violation. She gives Tall Girl an out. She says, "You do not have to perform this piece if you don't want to."
Which is, unintentionally, another false choice.
Right. Miss Caro means well, but she's offering another binary. If Tall Girl pulls the piece and refuses to dance, she becomes the fragile girl who broke under the pressure of her sister's legend.
And if she dances it, she dances threshold, she dances the legacy. Cassian wins either way.
But Tall Girl has integrated her sister's lesson. She realizes she doesn't have to choose between Cassian's options. When Miss Caro asks what piece she is dancing, Tall Girl doesn't argue about the program. She simply says, "Crossing water."
And Miss Carroll says, "Then dance that." I love that moment so much.
It's the pivot point of the narrative. But the true escape, the actual dismantling of Cassian's philosophical machinery, happens on the stage.
The smile.
Yes.
The smile. We have to spend time on this because it is so subtle. But mathematically, it destroys everything Cassian built. Tall Girl is in the middle of a stage crossing. The audience is sitting there in the dark, clutching their program inserts.
They're primed for a heavy, solemn, tear-jerking moment about carrying the burdens of the past.
Exactly. Cassian is watching from the back, waiting for her to perform the struggle he authored for her. And what does she do? Mid-leap, she smiles.
And we must clarify, this is not a performance smile. It is not the pasted-on grin of a pageant contestant.
No. It's a private smile,
Yes.
a genuine, almost involuntary expression of joy and movement. She smiles because the physical phrase feels good, because she loves to dance. And for a split second, the sheer kinetic joy of her own body overrides the psychological weight of the room.
And why is that the ultimate defeat for Cassian Rook?
Because it completely breaks the solemnity.
Exactly. Cassian's entire psychological apparatus requires everyone to take the metaphor seriously. He needs the audience to read burden, grief, and inheritance into her movements.
But you cannot overlay a tragic, heavy, providential metaphor onto a girl who is clearly just enjoying the physical reality of her own body in space.
The smile refuses to be allegorical.
It asserts that she is a literal breathing person, not a literary device.
It proves that choreography is not destiny. Cassian can light the stage, he can print the programs, he can cue the audience's expectations, but he cannot dictate her internal state.
It's the ultimate failure of his philosophy.
He believed people were merely patterns of aversions. He believed if you blocked every exit with discomfort, you could control their path. He didn't account for joy.
Joy is unmanageable.
Joy does not fit into a system of control. It operates on a frequency that manipulators just cannot hear or predict.
And we see this beautiful evolution of the sisterhood immediately following the performance. After the show, Tall Girl finds the keeper and says, "I forgot your story isn't the enemy."
A crucial, hard-won realization. For the entire first half of the narrative, Tall Girl resents the legend of the keeper. She feels oppressed by the ghost of her sister's athletic career.
But in surviving Cassian's trap, she realizes that the keeper is just as much a victim of the campus's meaning-making machine as she is.
The trap wasn't the keeper's story. The trap was everyone else's absolute confidence that the story could be used.
Used to manipulate, used to feel profound, used to save time.
Which brings us to the final grounding image of the story. The confrontation with Cassian and the walk back to the dorms.
They catch Cassian in the lobby. And it really flips the script on how a mystery is supposed to end. Think about traditional mysteries. There's always a grand monologue where the detective gathers everyone in the parlor and explains how the clock was tampered with.
Right. The big reveal.
There's a confession, the police haul the villain away in handcuffs, and the social order is restored. But here, Tall Girl just walks up to Cassian, looks at him, and tells him he doesn't get an answer. She refuses to engage with his debrief.
And then she just walks away.
Cassian is left standing in the lobby with a ruined theory and nobody to listen to him.
But does walking away really constitute a victory? Let me play devil's advocate here for a second. By refusing to argue with him, by refusing to dismantle his arguments piece by piece, isn't she just avoiding the conflict? Isn't he still free to do this to someone else?
I don't think it's avoidance. I think it's starving him of oxygen. If she stays and argues, she is validating his premise that her life is up for debate.
Oh, I see.
By walking away, she is saying, your entire framework is irrelevant to my existence. I mean, is the most radical act of rebellion just living your own life joyfully in front of the people trying to script you?
In a world obsessed with narratives, I think it is, if you spend your whole life fighting labels people put on you, constantly arguing that you aren't the quiet one or you aren't the sequel, you are still letting the labels define your trajectory.
You're just moving in the opposite direction of the gravitational pull.
True freedom is the smile in the middle of the stage. It's stepping off that axis entirely, refusing the gravity of their expectations and trusting your own music.
And the final image drives that home so perfectly. They are walking back to the dorms in the dark. Tall Girl is carrying her dance shoes, and the pink ribbons are trailing on the ground.
And the keeper just reaches over and gently tucks the ribbon back into the shoe. She says, "You keep walking around like a woman pursued by loose satin."
It's such an ordinary, tactile act of love.
But look at the contrast. Cassian folded those same ribbons into the shoes as part of a cold, grand philosophical experiment to prove a point about human nature.
And the keeper tucks the ribbons in simply so her little sister doesn't trip on the sidewalk.
It is the stark difference between treating someone as a subject to be studied and treating someone as a person to be cared for. Cassian saw an abstraction, but the keeper saw a sister.
It makes you realize that the greatest mysteries aren't found in locked rooms. They aren't found in bloody daggers or stolen diamonds or convoluted heist plots.
No, not at all. They are found in the labyrinth of ordinary people. They exist in the quiet boundaries where one life ends and another begins, in the spaces between a family's memory and a crowd's expectation.
And ultimately, in the profound mystery of a human soul that refuses to be reduced to a pattern.
Well said.
If you are listening to this out on your porch or driving home in the dark and you want to experience this world directly, if you want to read Random Weirdness for yourself, Or discover more incredible stories that treat the reader as a complex human being rather than a market segment. Head over to live.chestertonradio.com.
It really is a remarkable platform for this specific kind of rich human storytelling.
I highly recommend checking out the Open Door 24/7 live stream and supporting the little station on Commercial Street. They're keeping this kind of deep, thoughtful conversation alive.
It's a space that respects the listener's intellect.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to ponder as the crickets keep chirping and the night sets in. As you go about your week, the next time you find yourself acting out a role at the family dinner table, or taking on a persona in your workplace, or shifting your behavior in your friend group,
The next time someone hands you a script you didn't write,
ask yourself, are you trusting your own music, or are you just answering someone else's wrong question?
a question that deserves more than an immediate answer.
Because remember, the chalk outline doesn't have to define you, especially when you never agreed to lie down in it. Until next time.